So, and that's pretty lenient compared to other places. In many cases, vinyl windows would not be allowed at all. Okay, so we just talked about windows. Front doors. If you are dying to have one of those Home Depot front doors with the leaded glass and the giant Lone Star in the middle of it, that's really not historically appropriate for this neighborhood. There are many excellent options, and at Home Depot and other places for new doors that have a very similar appearance, but you really should repair or keep the door that you have if you can. There's also an idea if you have a door that's really deteriorated on the front, but you have a similar one on the back, you can move it around too. But we really want to keep those historic front doors. That's a very character-defining feature of a historic building. And here's an example of the type of door that we find a lot in the Germantown Historic District. Boy, you guys have a ton of this design. And you'll find this as an example in the Craftsman line in Home Depot's fiberglass doors too, because that's how popular it was in the past. Roofs. Generally not an issue. If you have a composition shingle roof now and you're going to put another composition shingle roof on, that's great. You still have to get a building permit, obviously. The big issue we run into with roofs are if somebody wants to take off a normal residential roof and put on one of those giant standing seam metal roofs that they use on elementary schools, and that happens, especially after a hailstorm. People think, I want a roof that I'm never going to have to replace again because of hail. And they put this humongous, giant red metal roof on their little Craftsman bungalow. It's out of scale and also, not historically appropriate. There are plenty of houses that have had standing seam metal historically, but the scale is very different. And that's usually a more modest home. So if you were, having a Queen Anne house that was very fancy when it was built, you generally wouldn't find metal on those roofs. If you have metal, you can replace with that, etc. But we really want to avoid those great big, robin egg blue standing seam metal roofs that are, on hospitals and shopping centers. Yes, ma'am.
If you've already got vinyl windows and you need to replace a window, then yeah, I know what I did. I mean, is there a problem?
You
going back
to
what I've already.
You are never going to be required to take your house back to a previous period.
Okay.
Nobody's going to come in and make you restore your house. So if you've got a vinyl window and you need to replace it, which you will, because those are not long-term products, 10, 15 years generally, you can replace it with vinyl. Now, if you have a vinyl window that you want to replace with a product that's going to last longer, like a wood-clad fiberglass window or something like that, you want to talk to the planning department and just make sure that that the profile of the window and the look of it is similar, so that would get through. Yeah, and even if you're just going to do another vinyl one, you want to make sure that the appearance is the same. So it's always good to get a check. That's what they're there for you as a resource to help you with that. Okay, foundations. The biggest thing with this is the screening that we put between the piers to keep little animals out and things like that. If you want to put a lattice within a frame and stick it in there, awesome, that's great. Please do not take a giant piece of lattice and just lean it up against the bottom of your house. I don't think there's a lot of that in Germantown, but boy, we see that in other places, and it's just not really good. There are also there's skirting that you can put on. You don't want your house to have that trailer sort of skirting around the foundation. That wouldn't be appropriate. So we have some information up here about foundations, and the ladies can help you. The ladies and gentlemen can help you with that too, if you have questions. Now, you'll notice that there's a bunch of rules, and then we have a miscellaneous category, and that's because there are a whole bunch of things that are more minor, but they're still on the list. So you'll see there's garages, carports, accessory buildings, awnings, things like that are in the list of things that are regulated. But we just didn't have room to list everything here today. Okay. Good practices. This is our list of recommendations. And remember I said that these aren't rules that you have to follow, but if you're looking for guidance on a project that you want to do and you want to make sure that it's appropriate for the size, scale, and period of your house, this is the section that provides that guidance. So fences are not regulated. However, we would really recommend not putting up a big fence that'll cover the whole front of your house and look like a compound. There are ways to get that security without walling off the whole front of your house and separating it visually and physically from your neighbors. Sidewalks, again, not something we regulate. If you have one of the sidewalk stamps with a date on it that looks really old, try to preserve that. That's kind of important and neat, and there's some of that out there. Sidewalks can be flagstone, pavers, they can be whatever. We don't recommend that you have a dirt gravel path to your house. And we see that in some neighborhoods, but it's just not appropriate for Germantown. Okay, driveways. Most of them are concrete, either full concrete or concrete strips like you see up here. And that's appropriate. And that's really good for this part of the country. You really don't want to have an asphalt driveway here. That's great if you live in the Midwest, not so much in Houston. That's why we don't have any. And also, like a gravel driveway or a dirt patch is not recommended for this neighborhood. Although you can have it if you want to, it's not recommended. But if you want to have something that fits in with the neighborhood and is compatible, something paved would be better. Exterior lighting. You guys know what normal porch lights look like. Some of us really like that kind of industrial look, and that's fine, but those utility lights, you know, that look like they'd be hanging off your shed, those belong in the back. Again, you can put them on the front of the house if you want. It's not a requirement, but they're really not compatible or recommended for the front of the house, and neither are satellite dishes. I know you gotta put them where you can put them, but preferably we wouldn't have that right over the front door. Toward the back of the house would be better. And finally, paint colors. We don't regulate paint. You can paint your house some crazy color if you want. A lot of cities do regulate paint, not because they want to be hard-nosed about what color people paint their houses, but because they want to protect homeowners from that guy who moves in next door to you and paints his house orange, red, and yellow, and that affects your property values. So that's primarily why cities choose to regulate paint colors. Houston doesn't do that, but if you want some guidance, look around your neighborhood. Germantown has primarily muted colors, pastels, medium tones, you know, light colors, and that's really what would fit in best if you wanted to paint your house a different color. Okay,